The other thing that gifts do to recipients is making them feel indebted. You know, it is so natural in any human being upon receiving a present. They begin to feel like debtors. They feel they owe the giver something. And sometimes maybe they they would perhaps, you know, think that thanking the giver would somehow go some way towards repaying, you know. But the recipient will always view the giver as a creditor. And if they do not have something in order to maybe reciprocate, they will always be looking for an opportunity, an occasion, a gap, an opening that they could exploit and try to return the favor. They will have no peace, they will have no sleep, they will have no rest, no break until they have somehow, to some extent, no matter how limited, as long as they have to some extent been able to return the favor in a noticeable way, then they will begin to stabilize. In other words, gifts destabilize the recipients. The receivers are thrown off balance, off their pedestal, by merely receiving a gift, because they start thinking that the relationship is now tilted more in favor of the giver. And to balance up things, to level up, the recipient will always feel that they owe that giver some favor. They have to do something for them, something tangible, or some kind of service, or whatever, form it might take, but they still consider it necessary to return the favor. And once that is done, then they become comfortable, because receiving tends to make people feel that the balance of power is shifted. The recipient feels they've been demoted somehow, and the giver has been promoted. So the recipient will seek to catch up with the giver by doing something, in favor of the giver. So it's always, a case of disruption. When, gifts are exchanged, there is this process of disruption in the relationship. And the recipients will always be searching for occasions, opportunities, openings, gaps that they can plug. that they can exploit in order to pay back, even though it's not a loan, but psychologically they feel they are now, subjects, and the giver is now, the master. And if they are to reduce the power distance between them, the recipient would need to do something for the giver so that things return to normal. Before they undertake any activity to normalize the relations, the recipient will always be bothered, will always be preoccupied with the need to find something that they can use in order to bring things to equilibrium. Before that happens, the relationship is certainly not one of equality. The giver and the recipient are not equals. They are certainly, structured. The relationship is structured in such a way that one, for all intents and purposes, will be reporting to the other. In other words, one would feel like a subordinate, and the other one would be treated as a superordinate, even though the giver would not have been initially seeking that kind of status. But the mere act of giving a present to somebody that maybe they are equal to immediately promotes the giver to a higher level. And the recipient would have to work hard in order to step up to the level of the giver by reciprocating.